Hi, Scott. As the president of SORFIN, I believe you are definitely the right person who can share the company's expertise in supply chain management. So, to start with, can you please remind everyone who we are and what we do, and how our customers actually can benefit from us?
SORFIN Yoshimura, we are a supply chain service company. We are 100% dedicated to the lead battery business, and we have been doing so for more than 40 years. We have a global infrastructure in place that consists of 8 offices, 2 of which are our mother offices located in Japan and in the United States. And then we have affiliate offices in different strategic locations around the world to try to support the industry as best as possible and be a supply chain partner as best as possible to the vendors and to the end users that we are working with. Our team is about 60 to 65 people strong. We have competencies in commercial, in technical, logistics, financing. We use all of our skill sets in all transactions and supply chains to bolster the vendor base that we're working with, to provide end users the proper solutions that they need in order to make their batteries as they wish.
Good. And you've just mentioned your phrases. So, relating to that, if to compare past year's crisis that your fathers probably faced in the past and today's COVID crisis, how to apply past year's experience to solve current issues, and is it possible at all?
Taro Yoshimura, as he's learned from his father, and as I've learned from my father, we've had to change a lot over the last decade or more. We've put these regional offices in place in order to be able to provide enhanced services to the market. We have a vast global warehousing infrastructure now. We always traded globally. We always had great relations with vendors and customers around the world. But the infrastructure, in terms of where we see bottlenecks in supply chains, we can do storage in mass for folks to be able to give them in a just-in-time way incrementally and safeguard against these types of disruptions in volume. Where folks are having difficulty because currencies are now wildly fluctuating, we can take certain financial steps now to either trade in local currencies or mitigate the risks of those types of currency fluctuations through our financing team. So we have thankfully continued to build out our infrastructure over the last 10 to 15 years. And I believe in this pandemic environment, we're seeing how that infrastructure really protects us and enhances both our vendor base and our customer base to be more successful. We are much more technically savvy today than we have ever been. And technically, I mean both in our abilities to understand battery making, but I also mean technologically savvy in terms of these new world devices and video conferencing and things of the sort, so we can utilize technology in order to make the world smaller.
Yeah, true. And just to continue this discussion, can you please share some secrets how to keep operations going in these uncertain times? And what are SORFIN core values?
One of the things that's always defined our company is that we are solutions providers. So in order to be a solution provider, we need to live in a world where there is inefficiency. And we're used to living in that world where there are problems, where there are challenges, where there are inefficiencies. And then we apply our skill sets in order to create best practices and best solutions. This pandemic, in that extent, is no different than many other challenges that we've faced throughout our history and we face from time to time regionally. I think the defining differences in this particular case is, number one, it's a global pandemic, and there haven't been that many challenges throughout our history that have been truly global events, but this is certainly one of them. And secondly, the aspect that the business climate is continuing to change almost moment to moment is something also which causes us to remain very true to one of our core values, which is flexibility. We realize that we have to adapt to moving targets all the time throughout the course of this pandemic in order to be successful. With great communication, and honesty and flexibility, there is nothing we can't accomplish.
I know you have some certain example to share.
Yes. So we've seen live situations happen in the last couple of years, whether it was tariff conditions between the United States and China that caused some disruption in trade and secondary supply sources needed to be cultivated, geopolitics that are going on between India and China. You're seeing a lot of also folks worry about bringing in products from specific countries and how that might be impacted in the future. U.S. products delivered in the former Soviet Union are also products that, certainly I think customers in the former Soviet Union are mindful about what type of support they can expect from the U.S. Market moving forward. So it's good to always have choices and diversification of options from different geographies, just in case geopolitical things occur that are not in our control, but then we have to be able to operate in these new normal worlds. We had a very interesting situation happen several months ago here in the US where a consumable product that was very particular, very unique to the industry, and also for the most part a single source in the industry, exited the business, and they did so almost overnight. And by doing so, it turned a product that wasn't a very essential product. It wasn't an essential consumable, but it turned it into an essential problem very quickly because it caused the industry to take pause and say, oh my gosh, how are we going to make batteries if we don't have access to this product? Well, thanks to our procurement resources and our logistics people and our contact base around the world, we were able overnight to be able to reach out to industry partners and let the customer base know, please have no fear that this product is no longer available. We have this option for you. Let's get some things tested. Let's get some things approved. Let's get some supply chains established. That was done literally overnight. And any risk was therefore mitigated. And we even went a step further where we took a lot of the older production equipment from this vendor that was exiting the business. We were able to take some of that production equipment and bolster a new vendor of the same product that just kind of increased their production capacity by taking their equipment and moving it down to this other vendor option. So there are things like that going on for us every day, and this is very common in our business, and it's one reason that I would argue, and I know I sit in a selfish seat, but I have heard throughout my history, I have heard that as a customer or as a procurement manager, you have a notion that it's better to work directly with the manufacturer than it is through a third party, through an intermediary like we are. I would argue that this situation, this pandemic, is a perfect scenario to display why working with solutions providers like ourselves will inherently mitigate risk and save customers money. Not cost them money, but save them money if it is done properly. If we are working on margins which are fee-based, reasonable margins for pass-throughs and aligning ourselves in an appropriate way with the industry, we can really be a bolt-on subcontractor for the battery-making customers that we're working with, and the customers can focus on what their talents are, which are making batteries, helping them to perform better, and helping sell them and distribute them in wide mass. And we can then bolt on from a procurement service perspective to optimize procurement to make sure folks have the right products for their right goals and their applications that of the batteries that they're trying to make. That's how we see ourselves. That's how we have built our business, and I believe that's how we will be able to survive this pandemic and beyond.
Absolutely. Only in one answer, you listed so many reasons for us to be proud of our team.
I believe that we have a wonderful team around us that are all aligned as one big global family, and we all know what our role is, and our role is to support the evolution of the battery industry, to try to help the industry evolve and grow and really thrive.
Yeah, that's true. And talking about this today's COVID crisis, did the company suffer from disruptions in supply chain due to this pandemic?
We have suffered a lot through this pandemic, as I believe everyone in the industry is and has and continued to suffer. But the reality is that a supply chain service provider like ourselves is equipped to handle these types of situations. Why? Number one, we are very remote capable. We are able to adapt our business practices overnight to work in a remote setting, and we have done so. In many ways, our internal communications and our communications to our customers, main customers and main vendors is even better than it's ever been before. We have a very big obstacle because the primary element that has always defined our businesses are the relationships that we make, and those relationships were largely made by traveling. And in this pandemic, where we are in a time where we can't travel, it feels very unnatural for me to sit here and talk to you behind the computer screen. It seems very unnatural to go to a virtual conference like the ELBC as opposed to attend the conference live, see industry partners and friends that we've shared times with throughout history in a virtual setting as opposed to an actual setting. However, this is also very functional. We have solutions that we've deployed from SORFIN Yoshimura's side in order to make our business run very effectively, even in this type of remote setting. So for the vendor partners and customer partners that we have around the world, they know that we can achieve whatever we need to achieve, even in this environment. It's just sad because for us as a relationship-based business, we miss our friends and we want to see them live, interact live, and we long for that moment to get back to that again.
Absolutely. Right. And now, the most up-to-date question, I think, how do you see the battery industry in after pandemic times?
I see the battery industry post-pandemic to be likely very similar than it was pre-pandemic. We have already had significant challenges facing lead acid battery industry before the pandemic. Those challenges were clear and obvious. If you look at CBI and all of the other organizations working diligently together with the lead acid battery industry, we've already felt pressure over the last several years from other chemistries that are impacting our ability to sell going into the future. So the necessity to optimize and increase performance of lead acid batteries will continue to be important. The precision of this battery system to be able to really optimize it precisely will be really important. So the customers, the battery industry is selling the right products for the right applications. This is the way that we can hopefully fight against some of the penetration from some of these other chemistries like lithium. But I do think that we are well suited and well equipped, much more so today than we were a decade ago, to be able to fight against competitive factors in our industry or to our industry.
And how not to be afraid of tomorrow? And it
So
can be in general, not only in battery industry.
So how not to be afraid of tomorrow? I think the unknown always brings upon uncertainty, and that uncertainty is something that we have to humbly look at, and say we cannot control our future. I think the pandemic has showed us very clearly how little control each of us have in our lives, whether it's from a business perspective or from a personal perspective, and that brings upon some real fears. However, I do believe with best practices, with folks around us that are great listeners and great expertise with amazing skill sets, amazing things can be accomplished. I think we are already showing our ability to withstand and really thrive in this environment. And this gives me confidence that regardless of what the future holds, we are adaptable creatures and we will continue to adapt and work together and be successful. So I think as long as we employ those types of principles in our behaviors, I have no fear about the future.
Great, thanks a lot. So we stay brave and we continue doing our great job. Thanks for your positive insights and such a positive message, Scott.
Thank you very much, Maria. I appreciate it very much. Have a great conference to everyone, and I look forward to seeing you virtually, but more importantly, live very soon.